Are video games art? It's such a pretentious question that I would roll my eyes and click away whenever I heard it, but I promise it's relevant. I mean, who could possibly argue against such masterpieces like Skull Island, Rise of Kong? I mean, look at this beauty, which, by the way, is published by a company called Gamesville, a touch on the nose, mind you. But even more interesting is how they keep getting access to so many famous IPs. I mean, this is the same company that published Nickelodeon's All-Star Brawl. Ironically, if you go onto their website, they don't even promote the fact that they made the next Mona Lisa. But that requires a video in of itself. No, today I want to talk to you about Before Your Eyes.
I'm gonna send you there to start from the very beginning. I need you to remember and just try to enjoy it this time.
Now, while I was doing a bit of Googling to see whether or not games were classed as art, there were obviously mixed opinions. But one I want to draw your attention to argued games were not an art form in of themselves, but at best interactive cinema. Now, while I would usually heavily disagree with this description, I personally wouldn't find games such as Baldur's Gate 3 or Call of Duty's interactive cinema. I do think it's an apt description for this game in particular. For example, Before Your Eyes is incredibly short. It takes around 1.5 hours to finish, and you can pick it up for about £8. This is a particularly low game to cost ratio, especially when games like Vampire Survivors came out the same year, which gives you substantially more playtime for a lower cost, only being $3.99, making Before Your Eyes cost to entertainment ratio a lot more in line with what I would expect to get from a movie. But what you are going to get for that £8 is a beautifully crafted story. I'm not exaggerating, it was nominated for the 2021 Game Award Games for Impact, and it won a BAFTA.
And the BAFTA goes to Before Your Eyes.
From people who are not from the UK, think British Oscars. And if that doesn't convince you, it's overwhelmingly positive on Steam. Now, on its release date, it managed to gain 1,792 positive reviews. Guess how many negative ones? Don't worry, I'll wait. 24. And none of them are about the story. It's done what it set out to do perfectly. Just don't go in expecting an incredibly expansive game. The premise of the story is basically that Meowth has had a poor landing after blasting off, and now works as a part-time public defender and part-time sailor to raise money so that they can continue their hijinks when Pikachu finally kicks the bucket. He's picked your soul out of the Sea of Souls to take to God, but you have to tell him your life story so he can convince God to let you into heaven, with the game being about you reliving your life. And while the story does branch, it's relatively linear, so don't go in expecting Detroit to become human. The story is definitely targeting people in at least their 20s, I would say. And while if you are younger, it's still a good story, I don't think it'll pack the same emotional punch. All that being said, I am getting very close to spoiler territory, which feels like a crime for such a beautiful game. As such, we won't really be talking about the story anymore. Now, this is where the game's gimmick starts to come into play. You will have to give the game access to your webcam, and every time you blink and this metronome's going, you will jump forward in the story. For any of you who haven't played the game, while you can play it without a webcam and just right-click, the gimmick is such a core part of the gameplay that I highly recommend that you do not play this game until you either get your hands on a webcam or can connect your phone. I cannot understate how cool this gimmick feels. I have never seen this gimmick before, and I don't know why. It is amazing. This is the first game I have ever played that makes use of eye strain as a storytelling tool, and has made me want to strap my eyes open like I'm in Clockwork Orange. The story writing is so strong that you genuinely get annoyed at yourself for blinking. This is the bonus of creating a sense of melancholy in you for what could have been. It is done so incredibly well. Reversely, there are points in the story that will only advance if you keep your eyes closed. This usually happens when you're trying to eavesdrop on other people's conversations, and it's such a clever mechanic because it really makes you feel like you're a kid again, trying to listen in on what your parents are saying. The game does such a good job at making you slip into that character role. I also think the music is done incredibly well. I'm not very musically inclined, so if any of this analysis sounds stupid to the more musically literate people, that's probably because it is. But I think the music does a great job at pulling your emotions and building the atmosphere. If you think about it like a meal, the music is never the steak, but more so the peppercorn sauce. It does a great job at elevating the steak. I might even order the steak again because of the sauce, but I'm never going to have the sauce on its own. Even if the sauce is so beautiful, it's enough to make me almost cry. Music really does remind me of the game Outer Wilds. They both work really hard to invoke emotion in you, a sense of wonder and a desire for exploration in the Outer Wilds, and sadness and melancholy in Before Your Eyes. But it might just be how similar these two themes feel to my untrained ear. Here, listen. While we're talking about musical themes, the game makes heavy use of storytelling through this method, which I personally don't see in a lot of games I play. So it might just be personal bias, but it really harkens more to that cinema feel that I was talking about in the beginning. This game is excellent, and I think it achieves everything that it set out to complete, but it's not perfect. Despite its short runtime, it does still have some bugs, in particular where a letter did not render correctly, and another where the game did not load the next scene and I had to restart the game from the beginning. Just something to be aware of. I don't have any more complaints. Personally, I really like the art style. It gives the game a lot of indie charm and just makes you smile when you interact with the environment. It also manages to instill more emotions despite its low polygon count when compared to the more high quality games that are released. And while the humans in this game don't look great, I think the game is going to age a lot better than some of the other medias, where we see them trying to create a more hyper-realistic approach, but falling into that uncanny valley effect. I also want to give some heavy praise to the voice actors. They did an incredible job. In particular, I think the mother did her voice really well. And while the father is great, the mother really hits the correct tones. Very much well done. Before Your Eyes is a beautiful piece of interactive cinema. And while if you go in expecting Elden Ring, you will be disappointed, it is an amazing game. I won't lie, it did get me. It is absolutely deserving of both your time and that BAFTA, and I urge you to give it a go. But please, use a webcam. Don't play without one. So thanks for sticking around. If you've enjoyed this video, why not drop a like and subscribe for more content? And why not check out some of my other videos while you're at it? Keep an eye out because we will be reviewing the Warhammer Rogue Trader game when that one finally drops. So stick around. Bye.